Okay, this is the second video in the data transformations digression, and this one is called splitting a vector into groups. And so this is exactly what I wanted to do with the bar plot, with the temperatures. I wanted to split, well, it's part of what I wanted to do. I wanted to split the temperature into groups, into the May group, into the June group, the July group, and so on. So suppose we have a vector, and each element in the vector belongs to a different group, and the groups are identified by a grouping factor. In this case, in the case we were talking about, the grouping factor is the month, and you want to split the elements into the groups. Okay, let's try. There's something called CARS. There's a data set called CARS 93. Right, it's CARS. But it didn't find it. So you have to import it, and I think you do that by typing library, and it's in something called mass. So we wouldn't know that, but now if I try CARS 93, let's see if it works. Yeah. Okay, so we had to bring that in. So there. Oh, it's much bigger than I thought. Okay. So anyway, it's quite big. So it's got all this data about cars, and it's obviously a data frame. But if you want to just make sure, you can test to make sure by typing class like that. And also we could do, to find out more details about it, we could do S2 str, which means the structure of this thing. So that's kind of a lot of stuff. So look at all that. Look at all those variables. It's quite huge. A data frame, 93 objects and 27 variables. The first variable is manufacturer, and it's a factor with 33 levels. So the manufacturers are Acura, Audi, and so on. I haven't figured out what these numbers mean. Model is a factor. Remember, factor means that it's categorical and not characters. And this is with 93 levels. And type is a factor with 6 levels, compact, large, and so on. And minimum price is a number, and price is another number, and max price and MPG, miles per gallon, highway, city, airbags is a factor with 3 levels. Driver and passenger is one of the levels, and so on. Drivetrain is a factor with 3 levels. Cylinders is a factor with 6 levels, like 3, 4. Notice these are levels, though. These are not numbers. That's kind of weird. Normally you would think of those as numbers, but for some reason they've made them as factors, or as a categorical variable. Engine size is a number. Horsepower is an integer. RPM. So number, we haven't talked about this, but number is floating point. Horsepower, RPM, revolutions per mile, all this stuff. Factors, integers, numbers, factors. Okay. So we have this data set. Okay, so there is a factor here called origin. And they're just breaking it up into 2. This is USA and non-USA. So, of course, you could break it up in different ways, but that's the way it's been broken up. So this factor will be the car is either USA or not USA. So remember, each one of these is a variable. And if we would scroll through the data, which doesn't show up very well here, but we'd have like this, and this is the 40th car, and it has different values and so on. Anyway, so um, so as we said earlier, we can group one variable according to another. So we could group one variable according to this factor. We could use this factor to split or to group another variable. In this case, I'm going to try and group miles per gallon city, which is just an integer, like numbers like 25, 18, 20, and so on. So we're going to say, okay, when it was 25, it was US, and when it was 18, it was US, and when it was 20, it was not US, and so on. So we're going to split this variable, miles per gallon city, by using the factor or the grouping variable of origin. And we're going to use a function that does this called split. So this is the thing we want to learn about right now, is this function called split. So let's see how we would do that. So let's take a look at this before we look at the result. So split is the function, and in fact, before we do that, let's just look at it. So split is the function, and it has two arguments, and one is the car's miles per gallon city, it's that variable, miles per gallon city, and the other is origin. Okay, so we're going to split this into as many. This will determine the number of groups. In this case, the origin only has 2 levels, so it's just going to be 2 groups, and all the elements that are in the first group, rather I guess that's in the USA, are going to be in one group, and we're going to see their miles per gallon, and then the ones that are non-USA are going to be in the other group, and we're going to see their miles per gallon. So there it is. So the USA ones, there was a 22 mile per gallon, and a 19, and a 16, and 19, and 16, and 16, and 25, and so on. And the non-USA were these. Okay? So now we could find the mean of this group and the mean of this group. So the usefulness of splitting is that we can analyze the data by group. In this case, we can analyze we can compute the median miles per gallon or the mean miles per gallon for each group. So let's just do the same thing, this split up here, but let's store it in a variable in G, like that. And then if we want to know the median or the mean, let's try the mean. If we want to know the mean, how do we do it? What do we need to put into the mean? If we just want the mean of, say, the USA, or just the mean of the non-USA. Before we do that, let's find out what kind of structure does split revert to, or in other words, what is G? What kind of structure is G? So it's a list. Now we haven't actually talked about lists, but it's not a data frame. But it's like a data frame, except that well, it's kind of like a data frame. We can think of it for now as a data frame. So if it's a data frame, that means treating it as a data frame. How do we get one of the columns in the data frame? Now, doesn't this work? So this will single out as a vector the first column, and then we can calculate the mean of that vector, like that. Or just to do something different, we could also calculate the median of that. Like that. Okay? Either way, it doesn't matter. We can do the mean or the median, or other things. How do we get the? Let's go to the median for group 2. Well, that's easy. We just change it I'm sorry, for not for group 2, for the second group, for the non-USA cars. So the median miles per gallon was better for the non-USA than the USA. I guess that means the origin. It means where they were made. So that, how about let's check the mean. 22. Whoops, that's the median. And the mean was also better for the non-USA. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so what we did here was we had this data in a data frame, and it was we were focusing on two specific columns: the miles per gallon city and the origin. And the origin was a factor, and it only had 2 levels, and we used that to split the data set into 2 groups, and but we were just looking at the miles per gallon for each of those 2 groups. And then after that we could isolate them and calculate their means or medians. Okay, that's all.